We found that APOE4, the APOE4 gene, prior the development of Alzheimer's pathology, so prior the development of amyloid beta plaques and deposition, already makes the blood vessels less able to respond to neuronal needs. So the vessels become more stiff, so they're not able to dilate to allow more blood to reach the neurons. And what this means is that if less blood reaches the neurons, then there are less nutrients and oxygen that are delivered to the neurons at any point in time. And as a consequence, we also found that neurons activate less strongly. So it could be because they start being impaired already prior to the disease. And we found that neurovascular coupling is impaired because when we created a neurovascular coupling index by matching the vascular responses to the neuronal function and neuronal needs, we found that actually the APOE4 carriers have an impairment, so they have a reduced neurovascular coupling compared to the mice that have APOE3 gene. So this really highlights the fact that the carriers of the APOE4 gene are more likely to develop an earlier vascular dysfunction, and therefore interventions to reduce the vascular dysfunction and the vascular damage are needed very early in the individuals that carry the APOE4 gene. And this is important because we cannot wait for the symptoms to start showing, but we need to intervene early. But what we also found is that when the pathology actually starts, so in mice that start producing amyloid beta, we found that amyloid beta further impairs vascular function, and this is true for both APOE3 and APOE4 genotype. But because the APOE4 carriers have already a worse situation to begin with, then the vascular dysfunction induced by amyloid beta is worse in them, and we see earlier cognitive changes. So basically, amyloid beta further impairs the ability of vessels to dilate, to allow more blood, and we also found that as a consequence of this, there is less oxygen that is available in the brain, so less oxygen is carried in the blood, and this is a global effect in the cortex of these mice. And this, as a consequence, impacts neuronal function, so neurons don't activate as much anymore, and it leads to the onset of cognitive symptoms. So trying to identify vascular dysfunction very early in the disease and treating it could be a way to delay the progression of the disease and treat it.